Hey guys, what is up? Today we are going to be reviewing the new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. So I'm going to do a bit of a demo for you guys. I'm going to compare it to the other bronzers in my collection, and we're going to compare it shade-wise versus formula-wise versus value-wise. So if you're interested in that, make sure you keep watching. Before we go on, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you and I can be friends, and let's get started on the review. Okay, so this is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. Now this is the packaging. It comes in very luxe, beautiful bronze and gold shiny packaging, very standard for Charlotte Tilbury if you've ever had her products before. So this is what the packaging of the actual bronzer looks like. Again, very similar to the standard Charlotte Tilbury packaging, but it has a little bit more detail around it, and honestly this packaging is super luxe, which is exactly what you want because you are paying such a high price tag for this brand for that luxury high-end experience, so it definitely lives up to that. Now this bronzer is 75 Australian dollars, and I believe it's like 55 US dollars. I'll put it on the screen here for you guys as well. So it is not a cheap bronzer in any way, shape or form. It is definitely expensive. However, this bronzer does have 16 grams of product in it versus say her Flawless Airbrush powder, which has 8 grams of product in it, and this was also $70. So you are quite literally getting double the amount of product for this bronzer. And you can see basically that this compact is pretty much the size of my head or the size of my hand. So it is very big, and I would liken it to the Marc Jacobs like Omega bronzers. If you've ever seen those, I'll put a picture of it here for you. It's very similar sizing to those kinds of bronzers. On the inside you get her beautiful packaging. You get a nice mirror here, and then the detailing on the side, so it's still really pretty packaging. And I have the shade medium. Now I originally purchased this bronzer over a month ago basically, and I purchased the shade originally in Fair because I thought that I would be fair. It says fair to light as the description on the website, and this looked a little bit too dark. However, when I got the Fair bronzer, it was way too fair, like way too fair. I could almost use it as just a face powder. So I would only recommend getting the shade Fair if you are very pale. If you are my color, or even just slightly lighter than me or above, you need to go up to the shade medium. Do not get Fair. And I'm gonna put some footage in here for you guys as well, just so that you can actually see me putting the Fair on my skin and how it literally doesn't show up. So what I ended up doing was I actually resold the Fair bronzer to a lovely girl on Facebook, and then I repurchased the medium shade on Net-a-Porter, and thankfully they have like 2-day shipping. Now there are 4 shades in this range of bronzers, and I would say that I could get away with using the first 3. Bearing in mind the first one is way too light, but I could still use the first 3. So in saying that, that is completely unacceptable. Their shade range is abysmal. There is no way that someone of my skin tone should be able to use the first 3 shades at all, especially when she's calling them fair, medium, tan, and deep, because there's no way that these are accurate to what the shades that they're supposed to be representing. So she definitely needs to expand her shade ranges like 100%, and I do actually know that she has come out recently and said that they are expanding all of their shade ranges, and I hope that that's not just to these bronzers but also to her entire cosmetics company, because she really needs to get with 2020 and become a lot more inclusive. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and zoomed you guys in a little bit so that you can see a better picture of what the bronzer is going on like. Now I have contoured using the Westman Atelier contour stick, which is a cream contour stick, so that is under my powder, and I've powdered using the Flawless powder from Charlotte Tilbury. And then I don't have any other powder products on. I do have the Hollywood Flawless filter as a highlight on here, and other than that I don't have anything on. So there's no other bronzers, there's only the contour, there's no blush or anything like that. We're gonna put the bronzer just straight onto the skin first to see how it goes. So I'm gonna take my Delium Tools 962 slanted brush here. Now it looks dirty, but I promise you it's not. It's all of the product has been cleaned off it. And I'm gonna take this brush and I'm gonna put the bronzer on, and we're gonna see. Now I haven't tried this at all yet, so I don't know if this color is gonna be too dark. It definitely looks quite dark in the pan, but I believe that these go on the skin a lot more less pigmented, I guess. I think it's a very buildable bronzer because that's how the fair one was. So I'm just going to start light and build up. Okay, this is a way better color already because you can kind of see it instantly, whereas with the fair you couldn't see it at all. So I've applied it all over my face where I normally would, and I think it is looking really, really pretty. Like, it's definitely, it's actually a nice shade for me. Like, I could contour and bronze with this shade, I believe, because it is sitting really nicely in that kind of hollow part of your cheek that you want it to. And yeah, it goes on beautifully, and it definitely does kind of give you, it has the same effect as the powder where it kind of blurs your skin, which is really, really nice. And it a little goes a long way. So it's not overly pigmented, like something like the Cover FX Monochromatic bronzer, where you really need to be careful the amount that you use, but it is nicely pigmented where you can kind of, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just nicely buildable, I think is the way to go. I think it would be hard to go really overboard with this bronzer, which is a good thing, especially for someone like me who goes overboard with the bronzer a lot. I'm just gonna go off camera and quickly finish the rest of my makeup, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna look at some bronzer comparisons and my thoughts around the Charlotte Tilbury versus those bronzers and swatches and all that kind of stuff. So I will be back. So the rest of my makeup is on and finished, and I will link all of the products that I've used today in the description box down below, as well as if you are interested in how I actually got this whole look, it will be up as a little video on my Instagram page, so I'll put my handle here for you if you would like to check it out. Let's talk about this bronzer and let's talk about its comparisons. Now, I think overall this bronzer is really, really beautiful. It definitely blurs your skin. It doesn't lift up your foundation underneath it. It doesn't move your powder around or anything like that. It's a beautiful, beautiful bronzer. It really is. And I think if you are looking for a high-end bronzer or a luxury bronzer, this is definitely a really, really nice one to go with. I think apart from the shade range, there isn't really any cons to this bronzer. You get a huge amount of product. You get beautiful packaging. The brand quality is really, really good. Yes, it is an expensive bronzer, but again, you do get double the product of most bronzers, but also you would only be purchasing this bronzer if you are looking for that high-end luxury kind of experience. So again, if you are looking for a high-end bronzer, this is an amazing, amazing option. They do need to extend the shade ranges, can't say that enough, and I really hope that they do though. Now, in terms of other bronzers, I have 4 other high-end bronzers in my collection, and I have 4 drugstore bronzers in my collection as well. And to be honest, the drugstore bronzers that I have are pretty phenomenal. So let's go ahead, do some swatches and some comparisons. Okay, so these are the swatches of my high-end bronzers. So you have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in medium. You have Fenty Beauty in Shady Biz. You have Cover FX, the Monochromatic Bronzer Duo, the lightest shade. You have Thrive Causemetics Blur and Sculpt Bronzer, and then the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Bronzer. So these are all of the swatches. You can see that most of them are quite similar in shade. I would say the Thrive Causemetics and the Cover FX one are the deeper ones, and these Shady Biz and the Charlotte Tilbury are quite similar, as well as the It Cosmetics. Okay, so with the drugstore swatches, we obviously have the Charlotte Tilbury in medium first. Then we have my current favorite drugstore bronzer at the moment, which is the Revlon Skin Lights in Havana Gleam. Then the classic butter bronzer from Physicians Formula in light. Then we have the Maybelline City bronzer in light cool. And then last but not least, we have the Milani baked bronzer in Dolce. Okay, so they are the swatches and the comparisons. You can see that a lot of my shades are quite similar, but it also shows you how fair the actual medium shade is for Charlotte Tilbury, because a lot of my bronzer shades are like the lightest ones that you can get in a collection, or like the second lightest, and that is like, none of these are called medium. So you can see how poorly the shades are in that collection from those swatches. However, if we're talking in terms of the product, now in terms of high-end bronzers, and what is probably the closest comparison in my collection that I have, I would definitely have to say it is the Fenty bronzer in Shady Biz. I think the shade is really, really close. This is probably a a touch lighter, but again, you can build this up to be basically the same shade. But I would say, and you can see how much I love this bronzer. Like, it needs to go because I can barely get any product out of it anymore. But this bronzer is definitely smoothing on the skin. It's not patchy in any way, and it is a beautiful, beautiful formula. And I think this one is 50 Australian dollars. So if you are looking for something that is slightly cheaper, then this is a good one. But again, it has only 6.23 grams of product, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury one has 16 grams and it's only $20 more. So in terms of price point, the Charlotte Tilbury one is actually a better value product. Now, in terms of my drugstore bronzers, I would say the one that comes the closest formula wise is the Revlon Skin Lights. Now, I have Havana Gleam, which was a pretty close color match, and you can build this one quite nicely as well. But this bronzer is really beautiful, you guys. I've only picked it up the last couple of weeks, and I have been using it every day. I cannot put it down. The quality of this bronzer is up there with Fenty Beauty, is definitely up there with Charlotte Tilbury. Like, if you're looking for a dupe and you only want to spend a small, like, I think this is $25 not on sale, but you can always get it like in Australia at like Chemist Warehouse or Priceline or something for 50% off, and it's so worth it, you guys. Like, I would pay $50 for this bronzer. That's how good of a quality it is. Like, it's gorgeous. Now, in terms of grams, you get 9.2 grams of product in this. However, it is still more than the Fenty Beauty bronzer, and it is a fraction of the price. So this is a really, really good option if you're looking for a drugstore dupe. All right, you guys, that is it for my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer / a couple of other products review. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you liked the comparison to the other bronzer swatches in my collection. Let me know in the comments down below if you find that helpful or not, so that I know to continue it in the future for my other videos and reviews. Overall, I love the products from Charlotte Tilbury. They are A++ from packaging to quality to me. I just can't fault them apart from their shade ranges, which is appalling, and let's hope that they change very quickly, especially given that we're in 2020. So that is it for today's video, you guys. If you liked this video, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my uploads. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!